This is NHL Wraparound Quick Takes, and this is Spring Cleaning. The San Jose Sharks were eliminated on April the 13th after making a somewhat unexpected push towards making the playoffs this season. Coming into 25-26, Neil, I don't think our expectations were terribly high for this club, even though there was a lot of movement during the offseason made by Mike Grier to bring in some more experienced players to help the growth process with a lot of youth on this team. But you still saw them kind of in the bottom quarter of the league. I saw them maybe around 70 points. I thought that they actually looked to me like Anaheim did a year ago, but I still didn't see them making the playoffs, and they certainly exceeded a lot of expectations.
And I think the major reason for exceeding expectations falls on one guy, and that's Macklin Celebrini, who improved from 63 points to 115 points and improved his plus minus from minus 31 to plus 8. And you take into consideration that Will Smith, also a young player, went from 45 points to 58 points, playing 5 fewer games. Michael Misa is a very promising player. They did acquire Kiefer Sherwood during the season from Vancouver, and they gave him a 5-year contract extension. And then Toffoli and Eklund and Wenberg all played pretty well for San Jose during the year. So I think that you couldn't foresee that. Certainly you couldn't foresee that Celebrini would be so good that he would be a good contributor to the Canadian national team at the Olympics this year. So the San Jose Sharks, in my view, have a very bright future, and I see it a lot brighter now than I saw it in the summer.
Additional youth with Pavel Regenda and Igor Chernyshov, and as you said, along with Michael Misa, each scored 9 goals during 25-26, and you have to think that all of these players are going to continue to improve. And if we take a look at the reality of the numbers on a team basis for this season compared to last, 34 points better in the standings. Now, let's face it, this was a pretty low bar. They had 52 points in 24-25, but the team goal differential drops or improves, however you want to turn the prism here, from minus 105 to minus 41. They scored 41 more goals than they did a season ago. But you can see kind of where this is shaping up here, Neil, because goals against average last year, meaning 24-25, 32nd, power play, 26th, penalty killing, 27th. This year, goals against average, 30th. Power play did improve to the middle of the pack at 16. Penalty killing still at 27. So as much promise as we see, particularly offensively, there is a ton of work that Ryan Warsofsky still has to do with this club because, boy, a lot of nights, Sharks hockey was attractive.
Absolutely. And the reason that they came so close to the playoffs, again, is the numbers that Celebrini put up. You just said it. The goals against is about the same. The penalty kill is exactly the same, but they scored a lot more goals this year. So they improved, as you said, from a minus 105 to a minus 41. They scored 41 more goals than they did a year ago. So you're absolutely right. Their offense is taking care of itself. Now they got to work real hard to be better defensively.
So let's see how Mike Grier gets that done, because this is a very interesting matrix that the Sharks have out in front of them. They have 8 picks in this 2026 draft. They have 2 in the first round, their own, and a pick acquired from Edmonton in a trade that sent Jake Wallman to the Oilers. They have none in the third round as part of a 2023 trade involving trading Erik Karlsson and acquiring Granlund, who then was signed by Anaheim this past July. They have 2 picks in the fourth round. They traded their own pick to Carolina, but they picked up the Florida pick in the Nico Sturm trade and the pick owned by Vegas when Timothy Liljegren was traded to Washington. So It's very complicated, but we just thought we'd give everybody kind of the layout of where all these picks moved and where they came from. As of now, meaning the spring, they have about $250,000 in projected cap space. Of course, that will reset on the 1st of July. Remember that they had Carey Price's contract from the Montreal Canadiens? It was a salary dump for the Habs, and it was a way for the Sharks to get to the cap floor. That's an oxymoron.
Absolutely. And a lot of teams did that. You remember how many times Phoenix used to do that before they became Utah? They'd take on somebody's dead contract, and they would get a pick for doing it. They would get a pick or picks or a player. And that's what they did by taking on Carey Price's $10.5 million contract that Montreal had signed him to. It's not uncommon for the teams that are trying to build themselves up, that are down as bottom feeders, to take on some of these contracts to get to the floor.
Ironically, former captain Logan Couture, who retired due to injury, is still on the books for one more season at $8 million per. And the Sharks also have about $6.5 million in dead money between the buyouts of EdouardVlasic and goaltender Martin Jones, and salary retentions on trades for the aforementioned Erik Karlsson and Tomas Hertl, who of course now plays in Vegas.
It's complicated, as you said, but you lay it all out there. And remember, Sharks fans, everything will change and reset on July 1st. And of course, the league and the team all know what's coming. So, you know, it's no surprise like you're waiting for July 1st to see how much space you've got. They're going to know. They probably know right now how much they can spend when the summer comes.
Their UFAs, forwards Ryan Reeves and the mentioned before Pavel Regenda, who's a Group 6, and defensemen John Klingberg, Nick Leddy, Mario Ferraro, and Vincent Desharnais. So that's most of their defense. So I think we know once July 1st rolls around, where some of that money is going to be
it's going to be spent on defensemen. We know that from the fact that they were bad defensively this year. And like you said, most of their defensemen are unrestricted going into the summer.
Their RFAs, forwards Colin Graff, Philip Kurashev, and Zach Ostapchuk, and defenseman Shakir Makhmadulin. Now, Makhmadulin is a solid defenseman for them. I think you're going to see some progression in his game, but also back up the Brinks truck in about a year, because Mike Grier will have to pay both Celebrini and Will Smith, who will be RFAs for 27-28.
Celebrini's going to be the one that's going to hit astronomical numbers, and Smith will come in somewhere underneath that. If you want to draw a little bit of a comparison, you might look at McDavid and Draisaitl on the Oilers, and this is their McDavid and their Draisaitl of the Sharks.
A whole new generation.